Hey YouTube, in this video I'm talking about how to get to train max velocity in your workouts. And to train max velocity, you need to understand what it is first, which is trying to increase your maximal speed, your top speed. And if we try to increase our maximal speed, and we're going to try and use sprint workouts to do this, then we only really have one option that we can take, which is flies. The only thing we can do is change how we implement these flies to determine how quickly determine which area we want to deal with our max velocity. Because there's two different places that you can really play with max velocity in, which is how long you're able to maintain it for and how fast it is. But if you work on how long you maintain your max velocity for, then that's speed endurance. It's no longer max velocity training. If you work on how high your top speed is, now that's true max velocity training. The reason we have to get this difference out of there as fast as possible, because we need to understand how our flies are going to look. Our flies will have no more than a 40-meter build up to top speed, and if we're training max velocity, and we will hold our flies for no more than 30 meters. That means that we're going to be doing sprints of no longer than about 70 meters in total. We're going to need 1 to 2 cones. The first cone will be at where we should be finished with our acceleration, and the second cone will be where we are allowed to stop moving our top speed and allowed to relax and just start to slow down. We can have our acceleration period shorter if need be. We don't have to actually go for the entire 40 meters, but it's important to understand that that is what we have to work with. We have 70 meters and 40 of it will be acceleration at best, and 20 to 30 of it will be, but at most 30 of it will be just top speed. However, it's worth noting that being able to hold your top speed for 30 meters is a very, very extended time frame. It's obviously can be extremely hard to do. So most likely we're going to be playing around 60 meters, which is why when people do flies, you generally see them do 60-meter flies instead of 70 meters, because holding your top speed for 20 meters or less is much easier than holding your top speed for 30, 40, 50. Let's not even get into these higher numbers, because that's literally just speed endurance. We're actually trying to focus on max velocity. If you want to focus on max velocity, we need to make sure that we're able to hold and maintain maximal efforts for repeats, essentially, just repeated periods of time. To be able to do that, we need to make sure that not only that we're doing our work correctly, which as long as you're going from nothing to an extremely fast movement, which would just be a normal acceleration, or you do a run-in. With a run-in, now you're allowed to go back slightly bit, but I'd say no more than about 10 meters. So that would boost it out to 80 meters, but it's actually really 70 meters of 70 at most of meters of actual intense running. Then now we're able to actually perform at our best. But once performing, we need to understand we need to recover as well, which means we need to understand how much rest we're supposed to be giving our body if we want to perform at our best each repetition. Because if you're doing max velocity, this is where quality becomes even more important, because now your body's literally in its phase of learning. Okay, how fast does this person who I am for me to go? And if you're giving it times, like let's say like every single workout rates it out 1 to 10, and a 1's easy, a 10's extremely hard. 10 being hard, not so much in fatigue and effort level, but in speed. Because sometimes you run a run and it will be extremely easy, you might even feel slow, and it was your fastest one yet. So let's say you keep throwing out, you throw out a couple of 10s and then you drop it down and you start throwing out 7s and 5s and 1s. Once that happens, your body's like, oh, okay, so it was supposed to go fast at the start, but now we can slow down. So from looks of it, we should always be doing slow. So we must be moving slow, so I don't really need to improve my max velocity, or I don't need to improve it as much as I probably could improve it so that we're able to go faster. But there's no need, because I haven't been told to. If all you do is throw out 10s, your body's like, okay, I understand, I need to improve, I need to get much faster than I do, which is why I always say there's no point in doing another repetition, if the one you just did is 10% lower than the best repetition you had. So obviously this maths isn't gonna be making, it's actually, we can make it make sense. So let's say you did a 10-meter block start and you did your best one in 2 seconds, or your first one in 2 seconds, yeah. But then you started to get slower and slower and slower, and then you did one at 220, then you did another one and you got 221. That's where you cut it short. There's no, if you, even if you're planning to do like 3 more, or even just one more, don't bother doing it, because if your performance starts to drop below 10%, there's no point. Maybe it's because you didn't take enough rest. Maybe it's because your body's fatigued. No matter what it is, maybe it's because your body's lacking something. It's started to use up its the deposits, and it needs to be replenished. Regardless of whatever it is, stop, because your body isn't going to be able to learn if you up the quantity too much anyway. And if the quality start to drop, then you might as well just stop the workout and stretch and go and just be done with the day and start again tomorrow, the day after. There's no point in pushing for pushing's sake, because sprinting doesn't always give you the returns. Actually, it rarely ever gives you returns you want for just pushing. Most of the time when you sprint, you don't actually get returns when you push. In fact, you don't get returns when you push. But regardless if this isn't a race, but if this is in training, you never get the returns you want when you push, especially the way most people push. So there's not much point in pushing for more reps in max velocity, where quality is the most important thing, because the faster you are, the higher the quality of your performance is, for example, and the less you can even do whilst you're training if the faster you are. So if you're slow and you do a lot of reps, you're just going to stay slow. You want to focus on doing a small amount of reps with the highest intensity and the fastest speed possible with the longest rest possible, and the rest period should really be at least 1 minute for every 10 meters you take, at least. So for 60 meters, so 60 70 meters, we're talking at least 6 to 7 minutes of rest. I would say 8 minutes minimum, because with max velocity, you want to make sure that your body is completely ready to go again. So 8 minutes to full recovery, which would be about 13 to 15 minutes, and you just do a rep each time, which would really just show you be able to show you how little reps you're going to be able to do, especially if, for example, you train after your warm-up, you train for an hour. That's like literally me telling you you're going to be doing at most 4 reps by the end of your workout, and then you're going to go and stretch and go home, because you're really not supposed to be doing too many reps from max velocity. It's supposed to be as high of a quality as possible. And I'll let you in on a little secret. The first few times you do this, you might not, even with full rest, you might not even be able to achieve stay within the 10% you're supposed to be staying within before you even get to 4 reps. You might get to 2, and then that's literally it. You've dropped down by the 3rd rep. So understanding where your body works, understanding how bodies generally perform while sprinting, and making sure that you're able to understand how much you're able to get out is extremely important, especially if you want to get faster through max velocity training. Otherwise, you may make improvements, you probably will, but it won't be as much of an improvement as you probably could have. If you like the video, let me know in the comment section below. Check the description, because anything I forget to say in the video, I always put in the description. And if you like my content, subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. I post every 2 days at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't know when that is, just hit the bell, and then you'll be notified instantly.